32 years ago, I got sober. I was new in sobriety, barely hanging on. I managed to join a group and got familiar with a few of the guys that helped me. I didn't have a car at the time, and I never forgot this kid, Peter, who grew up in the same town as me, but I didn't know him very well. He was a few years younger than me. And he gave me a ride home, and as new people are, I was angry. I was quick to shut people off. I was judgmental. And this is what alcoholics do. I was new to sobriety. I didn't like it. This kid, Peter, drove me home and didn't say anything about easy does it, hang on, you'll be okay, ask God for help, I'll pick you up tomorrow. He didn't say any of that stuff. Growing up in the same town, I knew his older brothers, and I wasn't familiar with them. So we had talked about what we knew in the town and around town about his brother's plumbing business and his mother and father and blah 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 and me. I did the same thing. We got to my house and he dropped me off. He pulled in the driveway. He said, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And he walked over. You get out, and I sat on the steps, and he sat on the steps at the other end. Big set of stairs in the front of this house, and I didn't know what he was doing. And he sat there, kind of looked up at the stars, the cars that drove by, being pretty quiet. He didn't say anything. And I was so glad that he didn't say anything because if he said something on the line of easy does it or, call me tomorrow or whatever, I think I would have knocked his teeth out. I was that angry. And especially angry that night and not even knowing why. This is what alcoholism does to people. Anyways, we sat there for about a good 15 minutes. And he looked up at the sky and he turned around, he looked at me, he says, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." And he just looked at me and said, "We got another day in, Larry. That's all there is to it. We got another day in." He said, "I'll catch you later on." And he left. Right then and there, I knew there was some hope because this kid didn't want to tell me how to do, what to do, or anything else. He didn't ask me any questions except for how you doing. He did not hang out longer than he should have. He just stayed there long enough to make sure that I was okay. And it worked. And it's funny how sometimes these things stick in your head, but it was good that he did that. That kind of turned my heart a little bit towards sobriety and trusting people because I didn't trust anybody that kept throwing easy does it to me or it's another day. I just walked away from them. This is how fragile sobriety can be. We can change our heart and change our mind at the break of a shoelace. Say, I'm all done. Today's just a horrible, horrible day. But this kid knew when to not to speak, not to say anything. And he was like me, only he was homeless. He was a gutter alcoholic for a short period of time, lost his marriage, his family. And so I knew he wasn't some phony or some counselor wannabe because we don't trust a soul. Us alcoholics, we don't trust anybody. Even if somebody else that we know says you can trust him, we didn't trust either one of them. It's horrible. Sometimes you're better off just sitting with somebody that you understand or they understand you, and it speaks volumes in quietness, knowing that you're in the same boat together. Any other time that would have been completely and totally uncomfortable for me. Because of that man, I'm here today talking about it. He he did more for me than I would know. He was had the same sponsor as I did, which he helped me tremendously. And he was an old timer that was gruff, sometimes moody, but I recognized the fact that he was a real guy. He's just a human being trying to get the day in just like the rest of us, but he had a world of wisdom behind him from living in the gutter and going along in life until he finally got sober and became a very, very important man to me, as I've stated in the past. One of the things he did, he was so good at what he did at counseling. He took people like me that were angry and just let us calm down, sit down, after a while, talk to you. And he knew, like himself, I went to Catholic schools and Catholic religion, and, he was Irish Catholic like me and knew how we walked, talked, and thought. And he never pushed anything onto me. He just let me figure it out myself because that's how we are. Chronic alcoholics don't want to be told constantly over and over. And if we are, some of us will start hating right away. Some of us will just shy away. Um, some will go and gossip and say that guy's an idiot, or all kinds of crazy things can happen. I used to say AA is like a bag of nuts. You stick your hand in, what you're going to pull out is a handful of nuts. And that's true, but some of those nuts are very, very valuable as far as gaining information and learning how to live a life in sobriety. Anyways, to get along, I had to do some things. And this man, this sponsor of mine, an old timer Joe, knew how to spoon feed me. He wouldn't give me a whole ton of "you're okay, how you doing," slap on the back stuff is what he gave you, and if you wanted to talk seriously, he could sense it. And you'd walk into a spare room or something in the church basement or the school you were in, and would sit down and talk. And he knew just how to tell you where you were and how to get you to look at it and how to get you to stay and not push all these steps and writing down information about yourself as you grow. He didn't do that. He was very good at reading where a person was. And if you're not good at that, you scare people away. And if you scare them away, sometimes that's okay too, because they will come back if they're desperate enough, if their heart is in it. But this guy was exceptionally good at reading me. That's all I can tell you. And he did it to a lot of other people too. But if you find one of those guys that are not, overly powering, overpowering to you and telling you what to do, we don't like that. None of us do. Nobody likes it. But unfortunately, this was before cell phones and computers and laptops. And there's a lot of that that's missing, that 101 and getting to talk to that one person, that one guy that understands you. In those days, the women worked with the women and the men worked with the men. because if not, I don't think I have to explain that. It doesn't work out. But what I wanted to say is the human connection, the understanding, is starting to drift away. People have left AA because they don't like it. They're uncomfortable with it. Why wouldn't they be uncomfortable with it? We stick with our phones, our computers, and FaceTime and everything else we do online. We can shut them off when we want. We can disappear. Nobody looks for us. It's so much different. If I had disappeared 32 years ago, they'd wait a little while and somebody give me a call to see if I was all right. It could even be 6 months, even a year. People would just check up on you and say, "You okay?" That, my friend, has disappeared. I'm Larry McDonald, celebrating sobriety. Have coffee with me on Sunday.